Imagine 1,000 strangers walking into a theater on a Tuesday evening. They come from different neighborhoods, different tax brackets, different political persuasions. Some arrived alone. Some are on a first date. Some dragged a reluctant teenager. They have nothing in common, except perhaps the playbill in their hands. The lights dim. The overture begins. And within minutes, something extraordinary starts to happen. Their heartbeats begin to synchronize, not metaphorically, literally. Neuroscientists at University College London strapped heart monitors to audience members during a live performance of the musical Dreamgirls, and what they discovered was, in the words of Dr. Joseph Devlin, head of experimental psychology at UCL, quote, astounding. The audience's pulses sped up and slowed down at the same rate, together, as if 1,000 separate hearts had quietly agreed to become one. That is not a poetic flourish. That is peer-reviewed science. And it is the beginning of a much larger story about what happens inside our brains when we sit in a darkened theater and surrender to a live performance. I'm Sue Gilad, Broadway producer, co-producer, and someone who has spent her career in the room where this transformation happens night after night. And today, we're going to explore the science behind why Broadway changes us. Welcome back to Curtain Call Conversations. I'm Sue Gilad. In our first episode, we explored the business of Broadway, how art and commerce coexist behind the curtain. In our second, we turned the spotlight on young people and made the case that theater education is not an extracurricular luxury, but an essential intervention for a generation in crisis. Today, we go deeper. We go inside the brain itself. Because here is what I have come to believe after more than 2 decades of theater. What happens in a Broadway house on any given night is not merely entertainment. It is one of the most sophisticated empathy-building experiences that human beings have ever devised. And now, for the first time in history, neuroscience can actually show us why. This episode is called The Empathy Engine, and by the end of it, I hope you will never look at a night at the theater the same way again. But before we talk about the solution, let's talk about the problem. We are living through what many researchers and public health officials have described as a crisis of disconnection. In 2023, United States Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy issued a formal advisory, not about a virus, not about opioids, about loneliness. He called it an epidemic, and the data behind that advisory is staggering. A meta-analysis of 148 studies found that strong social connection increases your odds of survival by 50%. 50%! Loneliness, it turns out, is not just an emotion. It is a health risk on par with smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And the fractures go beyond isolation. A September 2024 Gallup poll found that a record 80% of American adults believe that the country is, quote, greatly divided on its most important values. 80%. According to polling, 87% of Americans say political polarization is a threat to the nation itself. We are exhausted by division. 86% of us say so. And yet we seem unable to stop dividing. Now, here's where the research gets personal for me. In October 2024, the National Endowment for the Arts released a study on arts engagement and social connectedness. And what they found was this: adults who attended live arts events were significantly less likely to report acute levels of loneliness. Only 2.7% of live arts attendees reported high loneliness, compared to meaningfully higher rates among those who did not attend. People who showed up, who sat in a room with other human beings and shared a live experience, felt less alone. That is not a coincidence. That is a clue. And the neuroscience we're about to explore explains exactly why. Let's start with the most fundamental question. Why do we feel anything at all when we watch a performance? You are sitting in a theater. An actor on stage is weeping. You know, intellectually, rationally, that this person is pretending. They are reciting memorized lines. They will take a bow in 2 hours and go home. And yet your eyes sting, your throat tightens, your chest aches as if the grief were your own. Why? The answer begins with a discovery made in the early 1990s at the University of Parma in Italy. A team of neuroscientists led by Giacomo Rizzolatti was studying the motor cortex of macaque monkeys, the part of the brain that plans and executes movement. They had electrodes implanted in individual neurons, and one afternoon, something unexpected happened. A researcher reached for a peanut, and a neuron in the monkey's brain, a neuron that fired when the monkey itself reached for food, fired simply from watching the researcher's hand move. The monkey was not moving. It was not eating. It was watching, and its brain responded as though it were doing the action itself. They called these cells mirror neurons, and their discovery opened a door into understanding something that philosophers had debated for centuries. How do we understand what another person is feeling? Here is the key insight. Mirror neurons fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing that action. They create, at the neural level, a bridge between self and other. When you watch an actor stumble with grief, your mirror neuron system simulates that grief in your own motor and emotional circuits. You're not just observing the performance. At a neurological level, you are participating in it. Professor Marco Iacoboni at UCLA, whose landmark research on mirror neurons has been cited thousands of times, describes this system as the biological foundation of empathy. It is how we read intention, how we interpret emotion, how we understand, without being told, that the person across from us is in pain. And here is what makes live theater uniquely powerful. Mirror neurons respond more strongly to live, embodied action than to recorded or mediated version. When a performer is physically present, breathing the same air, occupying the same space, making eye contact with the audience, the mirror neuron response is amplified. The simulation is deeper. The empathy is stronger. That is not abstract theory. This is measurable brain activity, and it begins to explain why watching a show on your laptop, while enjoyable, is simply not the same experience as being in the room. Mirror neurons get us into the character's world, but what keeps us there? What makes us care so deeply that we change our behavior after leaving the theater? For that, we need to talk about chemistry, specifically two molecules, cortisol and oxytocin. Dr. Paul Zak is a neuroeconomist at Claremont Graduate University. He has spent years studying what happens in the bloodstream when people encounter compelling narratives. His methodology is elegant. He takes blood draws before and after participants watch a story, and he measures the neurochemical changes. What he found, published in the journal Cerebrum and cited nearly 500 times, is this: character-driven stories with a dramatic arc, stories that build tension and demand emotional investment, cause a measurable increase in two chemicals simultaneously. The first is cortisol. That is your attention chemical. It is the molecule that says, pay attention, this matters, do not look away. It is the neurochemical equivalent of leaning forward in your seat. The second is oxytocin, and oxytocin is extraordinary. Dr. Zach calls it the moral molecule. It is the neurochemical associated with trust, generosity, compassion, and, crucially, empathy. When your brain releases oxytocin in response to a story, you become measurably more caring, more willing to help, more attuned to the suffering of others. And here is the remarkable part. In Dr. Zach's experiments, participants who showed the highest oxytocin response to a story were significantly more likely to donate money to a related charity afterward, even though they were not asked to, and even though the money came from their own compensation for participating in the study. The story literally changed their behavior. Dr. Zach describes this process as narrative transportation, the phenomenon of being so absorbed in a story that you lose awareness of your surroundings and feel as though you are living inside the narrative. And he found that the degree of transportation directly predicted the degree of empathic response. Now think about what happens in a Broadway musical. You are not watching a story on a screen in a laboratory. You are surrounded by it. The orchestra is beneath your feet. The performers are close enough to see the sweat on their brows. The lighting shifts to match the emotional temperature of every scene. And the entire audience around you is leaning forward at the same moment, gasping at the same revelation, weeping at the same loss. The cortisol is flowing. The oxytocin is surging. And your brain is doing something it was evolutionarily designed to do. It is connecting with other human beings through shared emotional experience. Now I want to tell you about a study that, when I first read it, genuinely took my breath away. In 2025, a team of scientists from University College London, Goldsmiths University, and the Max Planck Institute for Empirical Aesthetics published the results of a 5-year, £1.6 million research project called Neuroscience. It was funded by the European Research Council, and it set out to answer a deceptively simple question: what makes live performance special? Here's what they did. They fitted 59 audience members with electroencephalogram, EEG, headsets that tracked their brainwaves in real time during a live contemporary dance performance. Then they compared those brainwave patterns with people who watched a recording of the same exact performance in a cinema and with people who watched it alone in a laboratory. The results, published in the journal iScience, were extraordinary. During the live performance, the audience members' brainwaves synchronized. Their neural activity fell into alignment in what scientists call the delta band, a range of slow-frequency brainwaves associated with social processing and deep engagement. When the performers broke the fourth wall and made direct eye contact with the audience, the synchrony became even stronger. But here's the critical finding. When people watched the same performance on a screen in a cinema, same choreography, same music, same everything, the synchrony weakened. And when they watched it alone in a lab, it weakened further still. Dr. Guido Orbs, the project lead at UCL, put it beautifully. He said, quote, "Performing arts are social art forms. They are created by performers and an audience who are in the same space at the same time." End quote. And Matthias Sperling, the artistic director of the Neurolife project, added something that I think every theater producer instinctively knows but has never been able to prove. Quote, "There is so much knowledge contained in live performance. The artists are experts in liveness, and so are the audience." End quote. What Neurolife proved with hard data is what we in the theater have felt for centuries. There's something irreplaceable about being in the room. The shared physical presence of performers and audience creates a neural event that no screen, no stream, no algorithm can replicate. So now let's put all of this together, because when you understand the science, you begin to see why the Broadway musical, specifically the musical, may be the most powerful empathy-building technology that human beings have ever created. I do not say that lightly. Let me explain. A musical combines three distinct elements simultaneously, each of which on its own has been scientifically demonstrated to build empathy and social connection. The first element is narrative. Character-driven storytelling, as Dr. Paul Zach's research demonstrates, triggers the release of oxytocin and cortisol. It transports us into another person's reality. It activates what neuroscientists call our theory of mind, our ability to infer what someone else is thinking, feeling, wanting, fearing. Every time you sit in a theater and try to understand why a character makes the choice they make, you're exercising the same neural circuits you use to understand your neighbor, your colleague, your political opponent. The second element is music. According to research published by Harvard Medicine, music activates nearly every region of the brain simultaneously: the hippocampus, the amygdala, the limbic system, the motor cortex. The American Psychological Association reported in 2026 that music, quote, activates diverse brain systems, offering insights into cognition, emotion, memory, and prediction. Neuroscientist Daniel Levitin has shown that when we listen to music together, our brains exchange oxytocin, the same bonding hormone triggered by storytelling. A study published in Frontiers in Behavioral Neuroscience found that people with high empathy process music as though it were, quote, a pleasurable proxy for a human encounter, activating brain regions associated with reward and social awareness. And research on group singing, published in a study cited over 300 times, found that singing together reduces stress hormones and induces what scientists call social flow, a state of collective harmony. The third element is live shared presence. The NeuroLive study proved that being physically present with performers and fellow audience members creates brainwave synchrony that recorded media cannot match. The UCL heartbeat study showed that live theater synchronizes the cardiovascular systems of strangers. And the NEA's 2024 research confirmed that attending live arts events is associated with significantly lower rates of loneliness. No other art form on earth combines all three of these elements: narrative, music, and live shared presence in a single, real-time experience. A novel gives you narrative, but not music or physical co-presence. A concert gives you music and co-presence, but typically not deep character-driven narrative. A film gives you narrative and music, but not liveness. A podcast, even this one, gives you narrative but lacks the shared physical space. Only the musical theater brings all three together. And when it does, the neurochemical and neural effects do not merely add up, they amplify each other. The music deepens the emotional impact of the narrative. The narrative gives the music meaning and context. And the live shared presence turns a private emotional experience into a collective one, binding an entire audience into a temporary community of feeling. That is the empathy engine, and I've seen it work up close for my entire career. Let me share what I have observed from the unique vantage point of a producer, someone who watches not just the stage, but the audience. I'll start with The Outsiders, which I was on the producing team of, and which earned the Tony Award for Best Musical in 2024. The Outsiders is, at its core, a story about young people who have been told by the world that they do not matter. Greasers and socias, the wrong side of the tracks and the right side. And what Essie Hinton understood when she wrote that novel as a teenager, and what Danya Tamor captured so powerfully in her direction, is that the longing to belong, the desperate, aching need to be seen and valued, is universal. I've stood at the back of the Bernard B. Jacobs Theater and watched what happens when that story lands. There's a particular quality of silence in a Broadway house that tells you something extraordinary is occurring. It is not the silence of boredom. It is the silence of 1,000 people holding their breath together. And then, when the emotional dam breaks, when the audience exhales or gasps or weeps, you can feel it move through the room like a wave. The New York Times wrote that the design and flow of The Outsiders is, quote, endlessly effective. But what I would add is this. It is effective because it activates every mechanism we have discussed today. The mirror neurons fire as the audience watches these young actors embody vulnerability and loss. The oxytocin surges as the narrative builds towards its devastating climax. And the shared presence of the audience, strangers who walked in with nothing in common, creates a collective emotional experience that bonds them to each other and to the characters on stage. I co-produced Moulin Rouge, the musical, which earned 10 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. Moulin Rouge is a sensory experience unlike anything else on Broadway. It uses more than 70 pop songs, songs the audience already knows, songs that are already woven into the emotional fabric of their lives, and recontextualizes them within a love story set in the bohemian underworld of Paris. The effect is extraordinary. When a familiar melody rises in a new dramatic context, the brain does something remarkable. It simultaneously accesses the personal memories associated with that song and the narrative emotions of the scene. You are feeling two things at once, your own history and the characters present, and the result is an empathic response of unusual depth and complexity. I've watched audiences in Moulin Rouge literally vibrate with energy. They lean forward, they mouth the words, they laugh and cry within the same number. The immersion is total, and that immersion is precisely the narrative transportation that Dr. Zach's research identifies as the gateway to empathy. And then there is Buena Vista Social Club, which I co-produced and which opened on Broadway in March of 2025. This show does something I have rarely seen in my career. It makes the audience's body move before their mind has decided to. The music of Cuba, the bolero, the mambo, is so rhythmically infectious that within the first minutes of the show, you can see people swaying in their seats, tapping their feet, nodding their heads. CBS Mornings described it perfectly. Quote, "It isn't just another musical, it's a heartbeat," end quote. And that word, heartbeat, is scientifically precise, because what is happening in that theater is exactly what the UCL researchers documented. The music is synchronizing the audience's physiological responses. Their hearts are aligning, their bodies are moving in rhythm, and through that physical synchrony, something deeper is happening. They're connecting with a culture, a history, a community that many of them knew nothing about before the lights went down. I read a review from a Cuban-American audience member who wrote, quote, "There was dancing and laughing, but then more crying. The Cuban story, our culture, our music, our tragedy, all of it portrayed in a theater," end quote. That is the empathy engine at full power. A stranger walks into a theater on West 45th Street and walks out carrying a piece of someone else's history inside them. There's one more piece of the science I want to share with you, because I think it is the most profound. Professor Uri Hassan at Princeton University has spent years studying what he calls neural coupling, the phenomenon in which a listener's brain activity begins to mirror the brain activity of a storyteller. Using functional MRI, Hassan and his team have shown that during effective communication, the listener's brain does not merely receive information passively, it actively reconstructs the speaker's experience. The neural patterns in the storyteller's brain are reproduced with remarkable fidelity in the listener's brain. And here is the key finding, published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences and cited more than 1,600 times. The greater the neural coupling between speaker and listener, the better the comprehension and the deeper the understanding. In a 2012 paper titled Brain-to-Brain Coupling, a mechanism for creating and sharing a social world, Hassan argued that this neural mirroring is not a quirk of brain architecture. It is the fundamental mechanism by which human beings create shared understanding. It is how we build culture. It is how we transmit values. It is how we come to feel that we are not alone in the world. Now imagine that mechanism operating not between two people in a laboratory, but between a company of performers and an audience of 1,000. Imagine the neural coupling that occurs when an actor delivers a monologue with such truth and precision that every brain in the house reconstructs that experience simultaneously. Imagine the cascading effect when the audience members, now neurally aligned with the performer, also become neurally aligned with each other. A phenomenon the 2024 research by Chang and colleagues at the Social, Cognitive, and Affective Neuroscience Journal described as multi-brain neural convergence. That is what happens in a Broadway theater every single night. It is brain-to-brain coupling at scale, and it produces something that no technology, no social media platform, no virtual reality headset has been able to replicate. Genuine, embodied, shared understanding between human beings who moments before were strangers. So why does all of this matter? Why am I, a Broadway producer, talking about mirror neurons and oxytocins and EEG headsets? Because we are living in a moment when the ability to understand another person's experience, the ability to feel empathy, is not a luxury. It is a survival skill. 80% of Americans believe we are greatly divided. The Surgeon General has declared loneliness an epidemic. Our screens are getting larger and our circles are getting smaller. We are sorting ourselves into algorithmic echo chambers where we only encounter people who think like us, look like us, vote like us. And the neural pathways that allow us to understand someone different from ourselves, the mirror neurons, the theory of mind circuits, the default mode network that processes narrative and social cognition, those pathways, like muscles, atrophy without use. Theater is the gymnasium. A landmark 2021 study published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology, 3 field studies over 1,600 participants, including a pre-registered replication, found that attending live theater increased empathy for the groups depicted in the play, changed audiences' opinions on socio-political issues, and led to increases in charitable giving to causes both related and unrelated to the performance. The researchers found that these effects were directly correlated with how transported the audience members were by the experience. In other words, the more deeply the empathy engine engaged them, the more their attitudes and behaviors changed. That is not entertainment. That is civic infrastructure. When I co-produced Angels in America, audiences confronted the AIDS crisis through the eyes of characters they might never have encountered in their daily lives. When I produced The Outsiders, teenagers in the audience saw their own struggles with belonging and identity reflected back to them with dignity and power. When audiences experience Buena Vista Social Club, they carry home a piece of Cuban history and culture that no textbook could transmit with the same emotional force. Every one of those experiences exercises the brain's capacity for empathy. Every one of those experiences strengthens the neural pathways that allow us to see the world through someone else's eyes. And in a society that's fracturing along every conceivable fault line, that capacity is not optional. It is essential. And that brings me to my final point. And it is a point I feel compelled to make as both a producer and an advocate. If live theater is, as the science now demonstrates, one of the most powerful tools we have for building empathy, social connection, and shared understanding, then we must protect it. We must fund it. we must ensure that access to it is not determined by zip code or income bracket. As I discussed in our last episode, arts programs are being cut from schools at an alarming rate. The proposed federal budget for fiscal year 2026 includes the elimination of the National Endowment for the Arts entirely. And when we cut arts funding, we are not merely eliminating an extracurricular activity. We are dismantling the infrastructure of empathy. We are closing the gymnasium where the next generation learns to understand people who are different from themselves. The research is unambiguous. The NEA's own data shows that arts attendance reduces loneliness. The Neuroscience study proves that live performance creates neural synchrony that recorded media cannot. The Rathje study demonstrates that theater changes attitudes and increases pro-social behavior. And Paul Zach's work shows that narrative transportation, the kind that happens most powerfully in a live theater, triggers the neurochemistry of compassion. We have the evidence. The question is whether we have the will. Through the Gilad and Larry Rogowski Theater Scholarship, Larry and I are working to ensure that young people who want to study theater have the financial support to do so, with no essay requirement and no minimum GPA, because we believe that passion and potential matter more than paperwork. Through In Fine Company, we are committed to supporting the art form that, as the science now confirms, has the unique capacity to bring human beings together at the deepest neurological level. But this is not work that any one person or any one organization can do alone. It requires all of us, audiences, educators, policymakers, philanthropists, to recognize that live theater is not a luxury. It is a technology of human connection. And in a world that is pulling apart, it may be the most important technology that we have. Let me leave you with one image. Picture that Tuesday evening audience again. 1,000 strangers, different lives, different stories, different wounds. The lights go down, the music begins, and within minutes, their hearts are beating in unison. Their brain waves are synchronizing. Mirror neurons are firing. Oxytocin is flowing. The boundaries between self and other are softening. And for 2 hours, 1,000 separate human beings become something larger than themselves, a community bound together by the ancient and irreplaceable magic of live storytelling. That is the empathy engine. That is what Broadway does. And that is why, in this fractured and lonely moment in our history, the theater matters more than it ever has. Thank you for listening. I'm Sue Gilad, and this has been Curtain Call Conversations.